Human existence isn't just a random, isolated event, it's part of a much greater cycle known as the wheel of life. This idea appears in many spiritual and philosophical traditions around the world. According to this perspective, the soul goes through countless incarnations, each one offering new opportunities for growth, learning, and purification. In Eastern traditions, this cycle is called samsara, and it is seen as the stage where the soul evolves until it finally reaches fulfillment and liberation. At the heart of this cycle is the principle of reincarnation, the belief that the soul returns to the physical world again and again, each time to experience new lessons and resolve unfinished business. Every life is like a new chapter, with its own unique challenges, relationships, and circumstances, all carefully designed to help awaken consciousness. This isn't a random process. It's a system that honors both the dynamics of karma and the power of free will. Throughout these many lifetimes, the soul can progress, stagnate, or even regress, depending on the choices it makes and how it responds to the lessons it's given. The path isn't a straight line. It's more like a spiral, where certain patterns may repeat until true understanding and transformation are achieved. Welcome to the Arcane Vault. Let's explore how different spiritual traditions interpret this journey. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of samsara is central. Both traditions teach that the soul is caught in this cycle and must transcend it through spiritual enlightenment. In Hinduism, the ultimate goal is moksha, liberation from the cycle of reincarnations. In Buddhism, the goal is nirvana, a state where desire and suffering are extinguished. Hermetic philosophies offer another perspective. According to Hermetic teachings, the soul is a divine spark that descends into material planes to gain knowledge and self-awareness. Spiritual evolution, in this view, happens through inner alchemy, where the soul transforms its dense nature and eventually reunites with the One. Christian tradition, especially in its mainstream form, doesn't focus much on reincarnation. However, Gnostic and mystical branches suggest that the soul may undergo multiple lives to purify itself and return to union with God. One of the most essential aspects of this journey is the interaction between free will and karma. Karma shouldn't be seen as punishment, but as a law of balance and learning. Every action generates consequences that shape future experiences, creating a kind of interconnected web that guides the soul through its incarnations. But free will is always present, allowing the soul to choose how to act and react, shaping its own destiny. The soulless journey through the wheel of life has a higher purpose, the expansion of consciousness, and the return to its true essence. By taking on different roles, sometimes as a victim, sometimes as a villain, sometimes as a master, sometimes as a student, the soul gradually learns the interconnectedness of all things and develops virtues like compassion, wisdom, and unconditional love. Eventually, the soul reaches a level of understanding where it no longer needs to reincarnate out of compulsion. At this point, it may choose to help other souls or transcend the physical plane altogether. The wheel of life isn't a cycle of meaningless suffering, but a sacred tool for spiritual growth. Each incarnation is a new opportunity for learning and redemption, bringing the soul ever closer to its divine nature. Karma is often misunderstood, wrongly associated with punishment or reward. In reality, it's simply the law of cause and effect applied to the soul's journey. Every action, thought, and intention creates a consequence that will manifest at the right time, influencing the course of future experiences. Karma isn't a punitive mechanism, but a tool for learning and balance, allowing the soul to understand the impact of its choices and refine its consciousness over many lifetimes. Free will, on the other hand, is the principle that allows the soul to decide how to act within the circumstances it encounters. Unlike absolute determinism, existence isn't rigidly predestined. The soul has the freedom to choose different paths. However, each choice comes with its own consequences, and these repercussions shape the reality we experience. The interaction between karma and free will creates a dynamic flow, making the soul both the author and the student of its own journey over multiple lifetimes. Karma acts as a mirror, reflecting back to the individual what still needs to be understood and transformed. Challenging situations are often responses to past actions, not as punishment, but as opportunities for growth. What one soul causes another to experience will eventually return, so that they may feel the same impact. In this way, karma teaches empathy, responsibility, and wisdom, allowing consciousness to evolve gradually and justly. Although certain aspects of life are influenced by karmic debts from previous lives, free will is always present to modify patterns and transform realities. How a person responds to challenges can dissolve or intensify certain karmic aspects. Reactions based on love, compassion, and understanding accelerate the soul's evolution, while repeated behaviors of hatred, vengeance, and selfishness prolong cycles of learning. In spiritual traditions, different types of karma are recognized. Individual karma relates to personal actions and consequences, while collective karma involves groups, nations, or even civilizations that share common experiences. There's also instant karma, whose consequences occur quickly, and latent karma, which may take several lifetimes to manifest. In all cases, the law remains impartial and precise, guiding each being according to their own vibrations and choices. Free will and karma aren't opposing forces, but complementary ones. Free will grants autonomy and responsibility, while karma ensures learning and balance. Both are part of the soul's greater system of growth, allowing each individual to find their own path toward liberation and spiritual awakening. By understanding this dynamic, the soul can act with greater awareness and purpose, using each experience as an opportunity for evolution and transcendence. The physical world isn't just a temporary stage, it is a fundamental learning ground for the soul's journey. Material existence gives the soul a unique experience, where opposites like light and shadow, pleasure and pain, love and fear become real and tangible. These contrasts create the perfect conditions for the soul to develop discernment, inner strength, and wisdom. While everything in the spiritual realm is fluid and interconnected, the density of matter in the physical world challenges the soul to act consciously and deliberately. When the soul incarnates, it plunges into the illusion of separation, temporarily forgetting its true essence. This disconnection creates a sense of individuality and the need to relate to others, so the soul can relearn unity from a new perspective. The physical body, with all its limitations, needs, and impulses, adds even more layers to the experience. It requires the soul to find balance between instinct and awareness. Time, which doesn't exist in the same way in the spiritual realm, becomes a crucial factor in the soul's evolution, allowing the effects of actions to be experienced one after another. The duality of the physical world is a powerful teacher. Suffering teaches compassion, scarcity awakens gratitude, loss strengthens acceptance, challenges stimulate resilience. No lesson could be learned as deeply without the material context. By experiencing fragility and impermanence, the soul gains a deeper understanding of the value of existence and the need to transcend illusions. However, the density of the physical world can also trap the soul in cycles of attachment and illusion. Fear, excessive desire, and identification with the ego create barriers that block the expansion of consciousness. Many souls spend multiple lifetimes focused only on sensory pleasures, status, and power, delaying their spiritual awakening. Yet, this too is part of the journey, as each soul has its own pace of learning. Before a new incarnation, the soul goes through a detailed planning period. It reviews past lives, identifies unfinished lessons, and defines the challenges and opportunities it will face. This process isn't imposed by an external force, but is guided by the soul itself, with help from spiritual guides and more evolved beings. The main goal is to allow the soul to progress, balancing karmic aspects and expanding its consciousness. During the separation phase, the soul gains a broader perspective of reality. It understands the connection between past actions and future experiences, recognizes the patterns that need to be worked on, and selects the context that will best serve its growth. This planning includes choosing a physical body, family, culture, and even the key challenges that will arise throughout life. While many of these aspects may seem random from a human perspective, on a spiritual level, they are carefully orchestrated to maximize the soul's learning. The choice of incarnation doesn't happen in isolation. The soul often makes agreements with other souls, forming spiritual contracts that define its most significant relationships. These connections can include parents, siblings, friends, mentors, and even adversaries, all playing fundamental roles in spiritual development. Not all interactions are harmonious. Some souls agree to challenge each other to accelerate growth. Despite pre-incarnation planning, free will remains an essential factor. The soul sketches a blueprint for its journey, but the choices made throughout life can alter the course of events. Certain challenges may be softened or intensified depending on one's actions and acquired awareness. The plan is not a rigid destiny, but a set of possibilities that unfold as decisions are made. Upon entering the physical body, the soul passes through the veil of forgetfulness, losing the memory of its past lives and the plans made before birth. This forgetting is necessary for the learning process to be genuine, allowing the soul to experience life authentically and discover its inner truth without external influence. However, signs and intuitions are constantly sent to guide the soul along its path. Synchronicities, dreams, and a deep sense of familiarity with certain people or places serve as subtle reminders of the journey once planned. The preparation for incarnation reveals that life is not a random event, but a carefully designed experience for the soul's evolution. Every circumstance, challenge, and encounter has a purpose. Understanding this dynamic allows individuals to navigate their journey with greater acceptance, responsibility, and awareness. Before descending into the material world, the soul dwells in a state of pure consciousness, where there is no separation, time, or physical limitations. In this higher plane, it experiences a profound sense of unity with the whole, understanding its true nature and its unbreakable bond with the divine source. Unlike earthly reality, where perception is fragmented and duality prevails, this state allows for a complete understanding of existence, free from the illusions of the ego. Yet, even in this ocean of fulfillment, the soul feels a call to evolve. There is a natural impulse toward learning and expansion, leading it to seek new experiences in the material dimension. This desire doesn't arise from lack or external need, but from the very essence of the spirit, which longs for growth and realization. Just as a seed needs the earth to bloom, the soul needs incarnation to transform potential into lived wisdom. Pre-incarnate consciousness is not fixed to a single perspective. The soul can move between different levels of perception, revisiting past experiences, observing the consequences of its actions, and understanding the patterns it still needs to transform. This state of clarity allows it to see not only its own trajectory, but also the interconnection with other souls and the vast web of existence. Through this process, the soul recognizes that earthly life offers unique challenges that cannot be experienced in the spiritual plane. Materiality, linear time, and intense emotions create valuable learning opportunities that do not exist in their pure form. Unconditional love, for example, can be understood in the spiritual state, but only becomes real when tested through difficulties, choices, and human interactions. However, by choosing incarnation, the soul also accepts the limitations that come with it. The veil of forgetfulness will erase direct memories of the past, allowing each experience to be lived with authenticity. Spiritual knowledge will still be present within, but it must be rediscovered throughout the journey. This forgetting is not a punishment, but a tool for the soul to truly grasp its lessons without external influence. When a soul begins its first experiences in the material world, its primary focus is adapting to the physical environment and ensuring survival. At this early stage, spiritual consciousness is still limited, and the soul is strongly identified with the body and its basic instincts. Learning occurs in a rudimentary way, based on direct experimentation and immediate emotional responses to life situations. The main focus is building identity and developing self-awareness within the constraints of matter. The first incarnations are marked by fundamental challenges, such as dealing with fear, hunger, pain, and the desire for belonging. Without a deep understanding of spiritual laws, the soul acts instinctively, seeking security and satisfaction through basic experiences. At this stage, concepts like morality, empathy, and responsibility are not yet fully developed. As the soul is exploring its individuality and testing the limits of earthly existence, as lifetimes pass, the soul begins to experience more complex interpersonal relationships, realizing that its actions generate reactions, and that living among others requires emotional learning. This awareness gradually awakens a sense of identity beyond the physical, allowing the soul to understand the importance of human connections and the consequences of its actions. Small flashes of consciousness emerge, sparking questions about existence, the meaning of life, and the purpose of its experiences. Another defining aspect of the early incarnations is the feeling of separation from the divine origin. The soul, once accustomed to unity in higher planes, now feels isolated and disconnected. This creates an unconscious longing to return to its spiritual home, which often shows up as a search for meaning, belonging, and fulfillment. But without the maturity to understand this inner void, many souls try to fill it with material possessions, power, or fleeting pleasures. Only through many experiences does the soul begin to realize that this deep yearning can be satisfied by anything external. It can only be fulfilled through inner awakening. These first lives are a period of experimentation and raw learning, where the soul starts to shape its identity and build the foundation for future evolution. The suffering and challenges faced during this stage aren't punishments, but part of the natural growth process. Over time, the soul starts to develop empathy, compassion, and a desire to understand something beyond the immediate, paving the way for a more conscious stage of its evolutionary journey. After physical death, the soul doesn't simply vanish or immediately enter a new body. Instead, it goes through a transitional period in subtle planes, where it reviews its past life, assimilates the lessons learned, and prepares for the next steps of its journey. This interval, often called the inner life, varies in duration and depth depending on the soul's level of consciousness and its evolutionary needs. The first stage of the inner life generally involves a life review. Assisted by spiritual guides, the soul revisits the most significant moments of its incarnation. In this state, there is no external judgment, only the opportunity to see the consequences of one's actions. From a broader perspective, the soul directly experiences the impact it had on others, feeling both the pain and the joy it caused. This insight allows for a deeper understanding of the laws of karma and spiritual growth. After this review, the soul enters a period of rest and energetic recovery. Life on Earth, with all its emotional and physical demands, can be exhausting, and this pause serves to restore its vibration and assimilate the lessons learned. During this phase, many souls remain in spiritual realms compatible with their level of consciousness, where they may reunite with like-minded spirits, such as family members or soul group companions. Depending on the soul's level of evolution, it may be invited to participate in spiritual schools or karmic councils, where it receives guidance on the next steps of its journey. Some souls choose to dedicate this period to helping incarnated beings or studying new abilities they will use in their next incarnation. Others, still attached to earthly experiences, may remain connected to the material plane, delaying their full transition. The inner life is not a static limbo, but a time of learning and decision-making. At higher levels, the soul may collaborate in organizing future events and even assist in the evolution of larger groups of consciousness. However, for those carrying deep traumas or intense regrets, this period may involve healing and purification processes before they are ready to move forward. When the soul feels it has assimilated what is necessary and is prepared for a new cycle, the process of planning the next incarnation begins. The soul's journey does not happen in isolation. Before incarnating, each soul establishes spiritual contracts with others, defining key encounters and experiences for its growth. These contracts are not imposed, but are agreements based on mutual learning, where different souls take on roles that will intertwine throughout life. Soul groups consist of spirits who share affinities, karmic bonds, or similar evolutionary goals. These souls reincarnate together repeatedly, assuming different roles: parents, siblings, friends, romantic partners, or even adversaries. The purpose of these reunions is to provide situations that stimulate growth, consciousness awakening, and the resolution of unresolved karmic patterns. Not all planned interactions are harmonious. Some souls agree to play challenging roles in each other's lives, such as antagonists, to trigger significant transformations. A difficult relationship may reflect a prior agreement in which both spirits decided to undergo a specific experience to learn lessons such as patience, forgiveness, or overcoming the ego. These contracts are not absolute. Free will always allows the soul to choose how to react to situations and even to distance itself from certain relationships if they no longer align with its growth. However, until karmic ties are balanced, the same dynamics may repeat in future incarnations until the lesson is fully learned. Within soul groups, some act as mentors or spiritual guides, assisting their companions on their journey even when they are not incarnated at the same time. These spirits help direct choices and send intuitions, ensuring that the planned experiences are lived in the best possible way. Understanding soul contracts and soul groups brings clarity to the importance of relationships in earthly life. Every significant encounter does not happen by chance, but as part of a grand plan of shared evolution. By recognizing these connections, the soul can navigate challenges and relationships more consciously, cultivating gratitude for the growth opportunities that each interaction provides. After the period of interlude and learning in the spiritual dimension, the soul begins planning its next incarnation. This process does not follow a fixed script, but considers various factors such as unassimilated lessons, pending karmas, and evolutionary goals it wishes to achieve. The choice of life context, including aspects such as family environment, physical body, challenges, and opportunities, is made with the assistance of spiritual guides and more experienced counselors. The soul does not choose its next life randomly, but based on what will be most beneficial for its evolution. Some spirits opt for challenging incarnations that require resilience and perseverance, while others choose more balanced experiences to consolidate lessons learned in previous lives. The selection process includes factors such as culture and historical period, as each era of humanity presents different challenges and spiritual opportunities. The physical body and its characteristics are also part of this planning. Some souls choose healthy bodies to facilitate their mission, while others accept physical or mental limitations as tools for learning. Similarly, the social and economic environment into which they are born is not accidental, but a carefully adjusted setting to provide the necessary experiences for spiritual growth. Interaction with other souls is also considered in this planning. The soul may decide to reunite with members of its soul group to continue developing bonds, resolve karmic debts, or mutually assist in evolution. Significant relationships such as parents, siblings, and partners are often chosen before birth, creating a network of connections that will shape its journey on Earth. Despite this detailed planning, the soul retains its free will throughout the incarnation. The plan outlined before birth is not a rigid sentence, but a blueprint with multiple possibilities. The choices made during life can alter the course of events, allowing the soul to learn in ways different from those initially planned. Some experiences may be avoided, while new opportunities may arise depending on the maturity and awareness acquired. The planning of the next life is an act of responsibility and self-development. The soul does not reincarnate by chance, but because it seeks to expand its understanding and move closer to its true essence. The soul's journey through multiple incarnations is not endless. Its ultimate goal is to transcend the cycle of birth and death, freeing itself from the illusions of the material world and reaching a state of full consciousness. This path to liberation, known as moksha in Hinduism, nirvana in Buddhism, or spiritual ascension in other traditions happens when the soul matures enough to detach from the bindings of ego, karma, and duality. At the beginning of its journey, the soul is deeply identified with the body, emotions, and desires. Its actions are mostly driven by instinct and the basic lessons of human experience. But over time, the soul starts to awaken to subtler realities, realizing there's more to existence than just the material world. This awakening can happen gradually through suffering, the search for self-knowledge, or profound spiritual experiences that spark questions about its true nature. As the soul evolves, it begins to cultivate qualities that bring it closer to liberation, compassion, unconditional love, detachment, forgiveness, and wisdom. These virtues dissolve karmic patterns and break cycles of repetition, allowing the spirit to transcend the need for compulsory reincarnation. Often, this journey involves a series of tests and trials that challenge the soul to let go of old conditioning, owning and raise its vibration. Liberation doesn't mean the soul simply ceases to exist or escapes from the physical world. Instead, it attains a state of full consciousness, understanding its unity with all that is, and is no longer governed by the illusions of separation and fear. At this stage, reincarnation is no longer a karmic obligation, but becomes a conscious choice. Some enlightened beings choose to continue reincarnating to help humanity's evolution, while others move on to higher planes of existence. Spiritual traditions offer many paths to achieving this state: meditation, selfless service, studying universal laws, practicing love, and seeking inner truth are just a few of the tools that help the soul on its journey. There's no single path for everyone. Each soul follows its own route, according to its level of consciousness and the lessons it still needs to learn. The path to liberation isn't a distant goal, but a continuous process of self-transformation. With each incarnation, the soul has the chance to get closer to its true essence, learning to act with wisdom and love. When it finally transcends the limitations of the material world, it becomes free to exist in harmony with the source, fully aware of its divine nature and eternal connection with the universe. Throughout human history, some highly evolved souls have chosen to reincarnate not out of karmic necessity, but out of pure service to humanity. These beings, often called enlightened masters, possess full awareness of their divine origin and return to the material plane to guide other souls in their awakening. Their purpose isn't to accumulate personal experiences, but to serve as beacons of light, helping humanity transcend its limitations and remember its true nature. Masters such as Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, and other great avatars not only attained individual liberation, but also dedicated their lives to sharing universal spiritual teachings. Their messages went beyond dogma and emphasized values like unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, detachment, and the unity of all existence. Despite cultural and historical differences, the essence of their teachings always points to the same truth: the human soul can awaken to its divine essence and free itself from self-imposed suffering. Beyond these great avatars, there are also lesser-known masters who work quietly, guiding small groups of disciples or influencing the world in subtle ways. Many do not seek public recognition, but serve as sages, spiritual leaders, healers, or teachers who spread essential knowledge for collective evolution. Some traditions, such as Hermeticism and esoteric Buddhism, speak of ascended beings, elevated consciousnesses that continue assisting humanity from higher planes, inspiring transformation and guiding those who are ready to awaken. The service of these masters isn't limited to theoretical teachings. It's also expressed through their example. Many endured great challenges and persecution, yet remained unwavering in their mission, carrying it out with integrity and absolute devotion. Their willingness to serve, even in the face of adversity, shows that their connection to the divine was unshakable and that their purpose went far beyond the physical world. Although the presence of enlightened masters is a great aid to humanity, their role isn't to carry the burden of others' evolution, but to provide tools so that each soul can find its own path. True awakening doesn't happen through dependence on an external master, but through the inner transformation of the individual, who must apply the teachings in their own life. By understanding the role of these masters, the soul awakens to the importance of serving the world. You don't need to be enlightened to contribute to collective evolution. Anyone, at any level of consciousness, can share knowledge, spread love, and practice compassion, becoming a channel of light for those around them. In this way, the work of the masters continues to live on in every human being who chooses to act with wisdom and awareness, promoting the gradual awakening of humanity as a whole. So, as you reflect on your own journey, remember, every experience, every relationship, and every challenge is part of a much larger story, one that's guiding you toward greater awareness, deeper love, and the realization of your true, divine nature.